The architecture building at 2 p.m. always smelled like a mix of dried wood glue, burnt coffee, and graphite dust. For you, a third year interior design student, it was practically a second home. The studio was a cavernous room filled with drafting tables, scattered cardboard models, and the steady, rhythmic click clack of a plotting printer. You rubbed your eyes, leaning back from your digital rendering. Your neck popped a sharp sound in the otherwise quiet room. Most of your classmates had crawled home hours ago, but you were stuck trying to fix a lightning layout that refused to cooperate. Signing, you stood up to stretch and walked over to the vending machine down the hall. When you returned 10 minutes later, holding a lukewarm can of coffee, you noticed it immediately. A square piece of heavy grade mixed media paper was resting perfectly in the center of your otherwise chaotic desk. You picked it up. It was a charcoal and ink sketch of your current project, but enhanced. The artist had taken your somewhat rigid room layout and breathed life into it, drawing intricate flowing shadows and a beautifully detailed mid-century modern lawn chair in the corner that tied the whole concept together. In the bottom right corner, there was no name, just a neatly drawn tiny icon of a crescent moon. You looked around the studio. It was completely empty. The only sound was the hum of the vending machine down the corridor. Who? You whispered to yourself, a strange warmth blooming in your chest. What you thought was a one time fluke quickly turned into a daily ritual. Every single day, the moment you stepped away from your desk, whether it was to go to a lecture, grab lunch, or just stretch your leg, a new sketch would appear. One day, a breathtakingly detailed perspective drawing of the university library ceiling captured from the exact awkward angle you always sat at when studying. Next day, a whimsical watercolor vignette of your favorite coffee mug, complete with the tiny chip on the rim, sitting next to a sprawling imaginary indoor garden. Another day, a sharp architectural cross section of a building that looked remarkably like a heart with tiny fingers working through the atrium. The style was unmistakable. It was raw yet incredibly precise, capturing textures and light with an effortless grace, and always that tiny crescent moon signature. You have a secret admirer, and frankly, it's making my romance life look pathetic. Your best friend Sora declared on Friday afternoon, leaning over your shoulder to inspect the latest piece. It was a sketch of you, or rather, the back of your head, capturing the messy bun you always threw your hair into when you were stressed. A stray pencil tucked into the bands. You blushed, quickly sliding the sketch into your portfolio, or it's probably just someone messing with me, or a senior practicing their figures. Right, because senior casually leave beautiful personalized art on people's desks out of pure kindness. Sora scoffed, rolling her eyes. Look at the line work, Ryan. The person isn't just good. They are watching you in a totally romantic, non creepy way, obviously. I don't even know who it could be, you admitted, looking around the bustling afternoon studio. The architecture department was massive, but your eyes involuntarily drifted to the far corner of the room. There, sitting by the massive floor to ceiling windows, was Kim Taeyang. Taeyang was a legend among the architecture students. He was brilliantly talented, capable of designing complex structures that left professors speechless. But he was also notoriously quiet. He rarely spoke in critics, preferring to let his massive, intricate foam core models do the talking. He wore oversized knits, long coats, and had a shock of wavy dark hair that constantly fell into his sharp, expressive eyes. Right now, He was leaning over a massive drafting table, a charcoal stick in his long, elegant fingers. His face was a mask of pure concentration. Could it be him? You wondered. No, Taeyang was in his final year, way out of your league, and honestly, you had never seen him look your way. As if sensing your gaze, Taeyang suddenly tightened his head up. His dark eyes locked onto yours across the crowded room. You froze, your breath catching in your throat. He did not smile, but his expression softened just a fraction before he quietly turned back to his blueprint. Your heart did a nervous flip. Determined to uncover the mystery, you decided to set a trap on Monday evening. You packed up your laptop, purposely leaving your sketchbook open to a blank page on your desk. You loudly announced to an empty corner of the room, going to the print lab, and walked out, letting the heavy studio door slam shut. Instead of going to the lab, you slipped into the dark materials library right across the hallway. The door was cracked open just an inch, giving you a perfect line of sight to your desk. 10 minutes passed, then 15. Your legs were starting to cramp, and you were beginning to feel ridiculous. Maybe he won't come today, you thought, testing yourself for being so dramatic. Just as you were about to give up and walk out, the heavy studio door creaked open. A tall silhouette stepped into the room. The overhead fluorescent lights caught the soft wool of a brown trench coat and a halo of wavy hair. It was Taeyang. Your breath hitched. You watched paralyzed as he walked with slow, deliberate step towards your desk. He didn't look around guilty. He moved with a calm, quiet confidence. He stopped at your table, looking down at your open sketchbook. A soft, incredibly beautiful smile graced his lips, the kind of smile that made his eyes crinkle into little boxes. He reached into his coat pocket, pulled out a thick piece of cardstock, and gently laid it down on your desk, right in the center of your open book. He lingered for a moment, his long fingers slightly brushing the edge of your desk, before turning on his heel and walked out. As soon as the door clicked shut behind him, you burst out of the material library. Your heart was pounding like a bass drum against your ribs. You ran to your desk and picked up the paper. It was a sketch of grand open air pavilion under a stray sky. Sitting on the steps of pavilion were two tiny silhouettes sitting close together, looking up at a massive radiant crescent moon. Turned over on the back, written in elegant architectural print, were four words: "You left your coffee." Next to the note was a small steaming paper cup from the bakery down the street. Your favorite latte. It was still hot. The next day, you did not know how to act. Every time you looked at Taeyang, your face burned hot. He, on the other hand, remained the picture of serene calm, working on his thesis model as if nothing had changed. You realized you could not just walk up to him and confront him. It would ruin the beautiful, quiet language he had built between you. If he wanted to communicate through art, you would answer in kind. You were an interior major, and your freehand sketching wasn't as flawless as his. You spent 3 hours that night drafting a response. You drew a neat structured blueprint of a modern glass green. Inside the greenhouse, you sketched a single detailed tiger lily, a flower known to represent pride and prosperity, but more importantly, a flower that matched the warm amber tones he often used in his accent. In the corner, you did not sign your name, you drew a teeny geometric star. The next morning, you arrived early before anyone else and slipped the drawing onto his drafting table right next to his T square. For the rest of the day, you covertly watched him. When Taeyang arrived and saw the paper, He paused. He picked it up, analyzing it slowly. That boxy smile crept onto his face. He looked across the room, searching until his eyes found yours. You did not look away this time. You offered him a small, nervous smile. Tang raised the paper slightly, a silent thank you, and placed it carefully inside his leather portfolio, right on the top of his most important blueprints. From that day on, the anonymity was gone, but the silence remained. You did not speak a word to each other in person. Instead, a beautiful unspoken dialogue flourished. He would leave a sketch of a chaotic, beautiful staircase. You would respond with the design for a cozy reading nook that fit perfectly under those stairs. He would draw a stark, brutalist concrete wall. You would return it with the vibrant ivy and soft textile banners draped over the concrete to soften the edges. It was a conversation of spaces, colors, and dreams. You learned more about his mind through his lines than you ever could have through small talk. You learned that he loved old European architecture, that he was obsessed with how natural light interacted with shadows at 4 p.m., and that he possessed a deeply romantic, nostalgic soul. The end of the semester arrived with the brutal vengeance. The studio turned into a war zone of stressed students, empty energy cans, and tears. Finals week had arrived. You were running on 3 hours of sleep, trying to finish assembling a physical scale model of a boutique hotel. Your hands were shaking as you tried to apply hot glue to a stubborn acrylic wall. Snap! The acrylic piece cracked right down the middle. A quiet gasp escaped your lips. Tears of absolute frustration and exhaustion pricked the corner of your eyes. It was 3 a.m. The final critique was in exactly 5 hours, and you didn't have enough material left to recut the wall. You buried your face in your hands, trying to suppress a sob. The pressure was suffocating. Suddenly, the tool next to you scraped softly against the linoleum floor. You took your hands away from your face and blinked through your tears. Taeyang was sitting right next to you. It was the closest he had ever been. Up close, he was striking. The sharp line of his jaw, the smell of cedarwood and faint graphite that followed him, and the deep, intense warmth in his eyes. Without saying a single word, he reached out. His large, warm hand gently covered yours, stopping your trembling. His touch was incredibly grounding, sending a wave of calm straight to your racing heart. He gently took the broken acrylic piece from your hand, reaching into his own heavy toolbox. He pulled out a sheet of premium frosted plexiglass, a material much better and more expensive than what you had been using. He picked up a utility knife with practiced effortless precision. He measured your model, scored the plastic, and snapped it perfectly. He then took a specialized solvent adhesive, applying it seamlessly to your model. You watched him in awe. His movements were a ballet of competence and grace. Within 15 minutes, the wall was repaired, looking 10 times better than your original design. Taeyang set the tools down and finally looked at you. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, folded piece of paper, placing it in your hand. Then, for the first time since you had known him, he spoke. His voice was a deep, velvety baritone, rough from the late hour, echoing softly in the quiet studio. Don't cry, he murmured, his thumb gently brushing a stray tear from your cheek. His touch was feather light, making your skin tingle. Your design is beautiful, Vian. It just needed a little structure. Before you could even process the sound of his voice or the way your name sounded on his lips, he gave you one last lingering look, stood up, and walked out of the studio to pack up his things for graduation. The final critics went flawlessly. The professor praised your innovative use of materials, specifically noting the frosted plexiglass wall that Taeyang had helped you install. By the time the grades were posted and the chaos of the semester finally cleared, the architecture building felt empty. The seniors were graduating and the studios were being cleared out. You sat at your desk, which felt strangely barren without the daily sketches. You unfold the note Taeyang had given you the night your model broke. It wasn't a sketch of a building this time. It was a beautiful, realistic charcoal drawing of you smiling genuinely, looking out of the studio window. On the back, there was an address, a date, and a time. Tonight, 8 p.m. Don't bring your sketchbook, just yourself. At 7:55 p.m., you stood at the steps of the Municipal Botanical Gardens downtown. The sun had completely set, leaving the sky a deep, velvety indigo. You walked through the hot iron gate, following a path illuminated by soft, low-lying fairy lights. As you rounded a corner, your breath caught. Standing in front of you was a grand historic glass greenhouse, the exact real life counterpart to the blueprint you had drawn for him weeks ago. Through the glass, you could see thousands of lush plants glowing softly under warm interior lights. And sitting on the stone steps of the pavilion outside, looking up at the sky, was Taeyang. He wore a long black coat, his hair softly blowing in the evening breeze. As he heard your footstep, he turned. When he saw you, his entire face lit up with that signature boxy smile that you had grown to cherish. He stood up, walking down the steps to meet you. You came, he said, his deep voice wrapping around you like a warm blanket. Of course I came, you said, your voice breathless. You built my drawing, Taeyang. I told you, he said softly, stopping just a foot away from you. He reached out, his long fingers gently tangling with yours, pulling you just a bit closer. You designed the spaces, Ryan. I just built them. He looked up, and you followed his gaze. High above the glass greenhouse, hanging perfectly in the clear night sky, was a brilliant silver crescent moon. Tang looked down back at you, his eyes reflecting the soft light of the gardens. I've spent whole year drawing things for you because I did not know how to tell you how much you inspire me. Every time I looked across that crowded studio, your dedication, your art, it made me want to build a world where you and I could just fit. Your heart swelled, completely overflowing. You don't need to draw anymore, Taeyang. You can just talk to me. Taeyang chuckled, a low, beautiful sound. Good, because I have been wanting to say this for months. He leaned down, his face closing the distance between you. His lips were soft, warm, and sweet, pressing against yours in a gentle, lingering kiss that felt like the perfect resolution to a long, beautiful melody. The world around you, the architecture, the deadliness, the stress, all melted away, leaving just the two of you under the open sky. When he pulled back, his hand remained cupped around your cheek, his thumb tracing your cheekbone. Let's build something together, he whispered, and looked into his eyes. You knew it would be the most beautiful project of your life.